Hey, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm a little worked up right now. I got to tell you, we're going to dig into some stuff, more stuff from Elle Duncan. For those of you that may not remember or didn't catch it, just real quick, Elle Duncan actually lightly, very lightly criticized Sheryl Swoopes for some stuff she said on a podcast about things like how the Fever would make the playoffs without Caitlin Clark and the Sky would not make it without Angel Reese and, just ridiculous stuff like that. And Elle Duncan sort of criticized her, thought that was a little too much. Before I even could do a video on that, Elle Duncan backtracked, completely apologized, groveled at the feet of Sheryl Swoopes, begged forgiveness. And so I did a video on that, also reminding people a lot of the things that Sheryl Swoopes has said, and not to mention her coaching career. And we figured, okay, well, that's it. But no, you see, a lot of people were upset, rightfully so, with Elle Duncan for backtracking and apologizing. And she didn't like that too much. So she's got to continue the drama, which I guess I should thank her for because now I get to react to her nonsense. So we're going to dig into these things, some of the things she says. This is a longish video here, so I don't know how much we'll watch, but I'll be stopping it to address the things she says. So if you want to watch the whole thing, go check out, go check out Ken Swift, who does a great job. He brought this to my attention, and you can watch the whole video yourself. And all right, let's dig in. Let's hear what Elle has to say now.
Right. But I want to address the situation despite the fact I've already apologized last Friday because of a couple of reasons. A, because I just went to NABJ and I sold these journalists on doing proper research. And B, because I want to answer to the folks who think that I waffled or took a step back because
Elle, dear, Elle, dear Duncan, you waffled and you took a step back. You apologized for an opinion that you had regarding something someone else said. People, your people, and I don't mean that in a tan way, they did not like you criticizing Sheryl Swoopes. They did not like you having that opinion, and you took it back. You apologized. That is taking a step back. What part of the words do you not understand? Wow, we're not off to a good start, Elle. What else you got?
I was somehow influenced by some woke mob that forced me to. So the situation, very quickly, if you don't know, was I kind of took the bait and I said that Sheryl Swoopes, based on some of these clickbait headlines from the story about Caitlin Clark, was giving some hater. It was giving off hater. Now here's where I messed up.
Wait a minute. What? Well, I mean, we can debate on whether you want to use the word hater or not, but although it's clear that Sheryl Swoopes is, check out my previous video where I go through again all the just blatant lies that she said about Caitlin Clark that were just things you could Google in 2 seconds to find the real answers to. So she knew she was lying about them. And you're going to now say that you messed up by having an opinion and calling her on that nonsense. Is that what we're getting to?
I didn't do enough research.
Whose fault is that? I mean, I think you did. I listened to your bit and I listened to what Sheryl Swoopes said. I don't know if there was a lot of research needed. Sheryl Swoopes made a statement about Caitlin Clark and you disagreed with it. Where's the problem? But continue.
Okay. I have been, Gary, working at a furious pace, as you know. And I have been telling myself subliminally for a while, like, you need to slow down, or you need to be putting more thought into the things that you say, or you need to be doing a little bit more research. We tend to put our feet up a little bit in the summer. And I've been sort of, jack of all trades, master of noneing this thing for a while.
Wow. Oh my can we dig into this whole nonsense? Did you this woman is in such a bubble. She is so entitled in this job that she has that she is publicly telling her audience and anyone else who comes across this. She is telling her employer, ESPN, that she is not doing her job. That is what she just told you. She is not doing her job, and she has not been doing her job for a while. And she's basically taken the summer off, although she's continuing to cash her paychecks and she's continuing to put out a subpar product. Because if you're telling me that you're not putting in the work and the time and you're sort of taking time off, then you're not putting out a quality product. How is she still employed? Can you imagine any of you, a typical American with a typical American job, going to your employer and say, "Hey, I really haven't been putting in the work or the effort for, the past few months. I kind of kicked my feet back during the summer months as well. I just thought I'd let you know that." And what, you think you're not getting fired? How is Elle Duncan still working? Wow, that is absolutely, forget the Caitlin Clark, Sheryl Swoopes stuff. That right there is absolutely nuts. That is crazy. Anyway, I could go on for that for a long time, but we'll keep going.
And it bit me in the last week because I made a judgment on someone and about someone without knowing the full story, without listening to the actual podcast, without not getting the full context behind it.
There wasn't a whole lot of context behind it. I listened to the whole thing. It was a very small part of the podcast. Sheryl Swoopes, basically, as she does, criticized Caitlin Clark, praised Angel Reese, made nonsensical comments about Caitlin Clark not being that important and how the Fever would make the playoffs without Caitlin Clark, despite the fact that they only won 13 games last year and they've already won 11 this year. The Sky would not make the playoffs without Angel Reese, despite the fact that at this point last year, the Sky were a better team last year. But please continue.
When I said Sheryl Swoopes was coming off as hatery, I was looking at essentially a paraphrased quote of like Katie Lou Samuelson is better than Caitlin Clark, or these things that were attributed to her. And instead of doing what I should have done was saying, well, let me hear it for myself.
Okay, again, you didn't do your job. She did allude to the whole Katie Lou thing, but that specific thing is kind of irrelevant. But just as a reminder for everyone about whether Sheryl Swoopes is a hater, and I'm not going to play this whole thing, but I'll just play a little clip as a reminder. This is her talking about Caitlin Clark when Caitlin Clark was getting ready to set the scoring record, the NCAA scoring record.
This isn't just for Caitlin, but you asked me about Caitlin. If you're going to break a record, to me, if it's legitimate, you have to break that record in the same amount of time that player set it.
Okay.
Right? So if Kelsey Plum set that record in 4 years, well, Caitlin should have broke that record in 4 years. But because there's a COVID year, and then there's another year, you know what I mean? So she's already had an extra year to break that record. So is it truly a broken record?
Okay. Now, see right there. And again, this is what I mean. Sheryl Swoopes is supposed to be in a position of authority here. She's a guest on the podcast to talk about this. None of this that she's saying is true. None of it. And it's easily verifiable by going to Google. Hey, go to basketballreference.com, check it out, right? All of that is a lie. And did you notice she said it in the past tense? She said she should have broken the record in 4 years. Well, guess how many years Caitlin Clark played? 4. She played 4 years. She didn't play a COVID year and then another year. She played 4 years. She broke the record not only in the year time frame that was legitimate, but she broke the record in fewer games played. So please understand, this is the woman that Elle Duncan is now again trying to defend and apologize to and for about comments regarding Caitlin Clark.
I just reacted to paraphrasing type of headlines. And I have a responsibility to do better because you can wing some shit in this job, Gary. You can wing Snoop's antics at the Olympics. You can wing, he got a big and he know how to use it. You can wing a lot of these things. But when you are going to make a judgment on someone and it is going to validate an entire group of people who have said abhorrent things to said person, You've got to be right. You've got to know and be informed on what you're going to say. And I didn't do
Okay. Let's see. First of all, do you know where you work? Have you paid attention to ESPN? Do they ever sound like they do their research and that they are informed? Do they sound like they care whether or not or how they come across with regard to the lies about Caitlin Clark, like I just gave you from Sheryl Swoopes? Do you care at all about being informed and telling the truth to your audience? Does any of that matter to you? Are you aware of any of that there, Elle? No, because you know you have a safe job and you don't need to do it well.
that. I did not do that. And I sent yet again an entire vitriolic mob to Sheryl Swoopes' doorsteps. And I gave them validation to say nasty, horrible things to her.
Okay, first of all, a horrible vitriolic mob. Okay, I'm assuming you're alluding to Twitter, which is, really? I don't know if I have to make a whole lot of comments about that, do I? But do you think any of them needed to feel validated by you? Sweetie, please check yourself a little bit. And again, and there's more to that video, by the way. Sheryl Swoopes, which I played before, but I won't go through it. But I'll run it down. In that same video, she said Sheryl Swoopes. She said Caitlin Clark takes 40 shots a game. Caitlin Clark in her college career. Caitlin Clark took 20. She said Caitlin Clark was 25 playing against 20-year-olds. Caitlin Clark turned 22, I think, in January, I believe. So, typical college graduate who went to college and graduated on time. She graduated at 22 in a few months. Okay. So these are the types of things that are very easily checked, and Sheryl Swoopes lied about them. Or she knew, yeah, she lied about them. I'm not even going to say she didn't know. There's no way she didn't know that Caitlin Clark wasn't 25 years old and didn't take 40 shots a game. So believe me, any of the quote unquote hate coming to Sheryl Swoopes, she's deserved. And the so-called mob you said you're sending, they don't need to be validated by you. They already know Sheryl Swoopes deserves all this stuff. They already know Sheryl Swoopes is a liar. They already know Sheryl Swoopes is an abuser. Or do we not want to talk about this? Sheryl Swoopes was fired by Loyola University Chicago on Sunday following a 2.5-month investigation into allegations of her mistreatment of players. That is who you're defending. And I guess I will backtrack a little bit and say alleged. I guess, do I have to say alleged because it wasn't a criminal suit. It was just the employer firing her. But clearly things were not going well at Loyola.
See, Elle Duncan says she's a hater.
Well, I just gave you all the reasons that she is. She actually is a hater.
Let me be nasty to Sheryl Swoopes now.
Don't need anything from you, Elle Duncan, in terms of validation to be nasty to Sheryl Swoopes. People are going to do it anyway. By the way, it's the internet. And I won't even go into it, but I did a video. I don't know if it's up yet, but I did a video on the US rugby players, gotten a lot of nasty stuff simply because she's built like a rugby player. There's I saw just the other day there was some stuff from Riley Gaines. I hesitate with this because I don't want to get political and off track, but she was being outspoken about the whole boxing situation in the Olympics, and she was getting like nasty death threats from people. So please stop this nonsense, Elle, making this like it's some huge awful thing that you caused, and everyone needs to apologize to Sheryl Swoopes.
And I am so sorry to her for doing that. Listen, we have a job, Gary, where we are going to say things sometimes that people are not going to like. And I stand on my opinion of things when I am well informed, when I know I am not just being inflammatory for the sake of being inflammatory, when I know I've done my research, I can stand on said opinion.
If you feel that strongly about it, then why did you give an opinion without doing all this thorough research that you say you believe you should do and that you should do, even though you did just tell us that you kind of basically don't do any research and you kick back during the summer months and you don't do your job? Which is it? Are you this super journalist that does more research than anyone in the world before you ever utter a sentence? Or are you this person that grifts off their employer knowing they won't get fired and you don't actually do your job? It can't be both, Elle.
But I waffled, AKA apologized, because I could not in this situation. Because when I went back and actually listened to it after I had already started all this shit, I was embarrassed. I was like, there was so much more context behind this conversation that was necessary.
There wasn't. There actually wasn't. And the only thing you should be embarrassed about is the apology. Well, now you should be embarrassed about this and following up on that apology. Wow. This is crazy. I don't even, you know what? I don't even know that I want to cover anymore. Oh my goodness. This is exhausting. I think she just goes on to say the same stuff.
And I begged people. I sat at NABJ, Gary, and I told these young journalists, you have to be a master researcher. You have to stop in a world of bad information being disseminated. We have to be the ones to do the research.
Since when? What journalism are you talking about? Where? On what planet? Since when is journalism about research and facts? My goodness, Elle. You're crazy, girl. Come on.
We have to know both sides so that we can be informed. And then I walked right upstairs to that hotel room and I didn't look at this rundown on this show for a second because I've been playing fast and loose with just ad-libbing this shit.
So again, you're admitting to not doing your job, but you're okay with your employer paying you for doing your job. You're okay with letting down your audience who pays attention to you and allows you to have this job, and you don't respect them enough to do the work. You're really not coming off well, Elle. Forget the whole Sheryl Swoopes thing. You just don't come off well as a human being. This is really, really, but do you really have so little self-awareness that you're wrapped in such a bubble that you have no idea how bad all of this sounds?
And I made a snap judgment and it started some shit. And I'm sorry. I am so sorry to Sheryl Swoopes because she deserved better. If I was
That may be one of the most disgusting things I've ever heard. I showed you a bit of the video. I went down some of the other things that Sheryl Swoopes has said where she just flat out lied repeatedly about Caitlin Clark, tried to denigrate Caitlin Clark, tried to lower the how people should feel about what Caitlin Clark's accomplished, got fired as a coach of college basketball for how poorly she treated young women. And you're going to sit here and be sorry about something you said to her that had other people criticizing her. That I don't even know where to go with that. That is so absolutely horrific. Elle Duncan's become one of my least favorite people I've ever heard speak.
was going to lay that at her doorstep, then I needed to do a better job at my job. And I
Well, hey, we're not going to argue there. I will agree with you there. Not just a better job. You haven't done your job at all from your own admission. So really, you shouldn't have it anymore. It is shocking that you still have a job.
did not. I failed at my job last Thursday.
You failed at your job, it sounds like, for months, according to you.
And that doesn't make it any better for Sheryl because now forever on the internet, there lives a clip of me being like, Sheryl Swoopes is a hater.
There's plenty of video about Sheryl Swoopes being a hater, like what I showed in this video and in other videos. Wow. I'm going to leave it there. I mean, ESPN, this is ESPN's terrible, as we know. That's just, but that's what happens. And if you saw my video about the new sports streaming service combining a lot of the big companies, where I talked about ESPN has been able to be that way and been able to overpay for things like NBA telecasts because they were making like $7.64 a month per cable subscriber, whether anyone watched their channel or not. They were making, like, depending on the number of cable customers at the time, it's declining. Obviously, it's down to like 76 million. It was over 100 million not that long ago. So you're talking anywhere from like $5.5 to $9+ billion per year that ESPN was getting before they collected a cent of advertising revenue. It was just free money. They didn't have to be great at anything anymore. They could spend all that money to get the rights to show MLB and NBA and everything else because it really wasn't a risk. It wasn't cutting into profit. But anyway, so look, man. Hey, Elle, I'd be happy to chat to you about Sheryl Swoopes. Please reach out. We can talk about some of these things you don't seem to know about her. And hey, that's open to Monica McNutt and Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, Cheryl Reeve, Chiney, Andrea Carter. Come on now. Hey, even Keyshawn Johnson, because he's been so great about this as well. So really, if any of you want to actually get those facts, because Al, I know you said you're big on research and being informed, I'll be happy to give you the facts because you clearly can't find them. That is blatantly obvious with your worship of Sheryl Swoopes for whatever reason. But anyway, I'm going to leave it there. This is just crazy stuff. Let me know your thoughts on this comments below. I mean, what do you think? Am I being too hard on her? But I'm sorry, but that stuff about like the sincerity about how bad she feels for Sheryl Swoopes and the fact that she repeatedly has said she doesn't do her job, which means she has no respect for her employer or her audience. That's you, any of you that watch her. She doesn't respect you at all because she can't bother to do her job. She just comes on and spouts BS. That says a lot to me about who she is as a human being. Set aside the whole Caitlin Clark, Sheryl Swoopes controversy nonsense. But let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. Thanks so much for checking out this video. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will talk to you later.